Organizing resources is slightly different. Father Mike was talking about the conventual Franciscans. Do you know the conventual Franciscans? He and I were both conventual Franciscans, the black Franciscans, or the gray friars we were called in England. The conventual Franciscans are the confessors to the Pope in Rome. The black friars, the gray friars, we are the confessors in the Vatican. How did we get to do that? We have the Basilica of St. Francis in Assisi. We have the Basilica of St. Anthony in Padua. How did we do that? Because the conventuals in the history of the Franciscan order were not those who said, oh, I can't touch money, it's evil. They were the ones who said, oh, like I said to Dr. Trevino, soy un padre pobre, I'm a poor priest, right? The conventual Franciscan friars were the ones who began to organize resources in a way that other friars would not. When the other friars would not touch money because they believed it to be evil. The conventuals believed that it could be an instrument for advancing God's kingdom and for building up the church. So the conventual Franciscans are the example that I look at. So when we're talking about organizing people, when these people came to the early Christian community and started bringing their tortillas and frijoles and all their other potluck items, they started to begin to bring together resources. We also want to recognize that resources are not just, the treasure and the food and everything that people bring together, but also their time and talent. Have you seen here in Holy Family the time that our environment committee, I don't want to pick on our environment committee, but they have been in that church. When we call it a day at 9 o'clock, they're in that church until late hours of the morning. Our stewardship committee, collection counters, right, are staying after Mass. They're sharing up their time for their ministries. Why are they doing that? What's the ROI? What are they getting in return? There's obviously something about that experience, something about that for those persons that I'd like to think that we here at Holy Family are creating. And a lot of that has to do with relationship. Let's just be honest. So much of what we do as ministers in the church comes down to relationship. Relationships that we build with them, but also the relationships that we help them build with one another. In Holy Family, we've always had a free parish breakfast after Mass. I mean, it's just been one of the most important things. From the very first Sunday that we kicked off at our rectory, as Father Roy told the story the other day, Mary Lou and Inez Mendoza and a Vides missionary were in the kitchen preparing breakfast. So it wasn't just go to church and go home. It was go to church and while you're here, stay for a taco and get to know some of you. It's been beautiful seeing the building of relationships. And what's beautiful to me is that I told you about our demographic, many older persons. For many of those persons, coming to Holy Family is a highlight of their week, it seems. In French, we have a saying, gift implies return gift. It just seems that we as ministers, as servants of God and of God's people, have to be thinking, gift implies return gift. If someone is being kind, how can we find a way to show our appreciation? I am famous for saying, y'all are saints. They're the most adequate words I can find to express what I can't express in words, you know what I mean? When people so generously share of their time and of their talent and of their treasure, the word thank you just doesn't suffice. I mean, it's a start. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you enough, which is why many years ago I started saying to people, y'all are saints. I mean, just seeing the way that you share of yourselves is really, really exemplary. How can we thank them, whether it's through words, whether it's through actions? I see some people are signing thank you cards around the table. Why would we even think of thank you cards? Interesting how it is that people do things, but isn't it true that if you do something after a while and people aren't grateful, how does that make you feel? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? But when you know that someone appreciates what you're doing, oh boy, that just makes your day. And when I go to when I go to Mary Lou's home and see the various expressions of gratitude, around her home that we've shared with her throughout the years, it's just a beautiful thing to see how much they have meant to her and to so many other people. Every March we have what we call our Holy Family Awards, where we recognize those who contribute significantly, sharing of their time and or talent and or treasure with our community, so that they can have a nice memento and a token of our gratitude to them. So people share of their time and of their talent and their treasure for different reasons. It just seems it falls to us to really think through, people are doing it for different reasons. We have to find ways to be able to show that we're grateful to them and to appeal to those different personalities. Yesterday we were talking about 5 stages in the development of Eucharistic communities, going from I'm alone to we are really cooking with fire. Stage 0, I'm alone. If I'm celebrating Mass alone, which is what I was doing in January of 2012 after I left the Roman Catholic Church, there was no community, which meant there was no one to buy hosts or wine or a chasuble. You follow me? It was sort of like if I was going to have hosts, who was going to pay for them? I was going to pay for them. We know that experience. That's stage 0. Stage 1 is when we have a small group of people who are celebrating with us, and they start to realize. It was beautiful seeing this in Hudson Bend. When the Hudson Bend community came together, Father Cleophas would generously drive out there, share of his time, minister to them, drive home, expecting nothing. The people start to generously share, and then people start to realize, oh, wait a minute, Father Cleophas has hosts and wine for us every week. He's paying for that himself? Not only is he sharing of his time and of his gas, but he's like covering all the expenses. What a beautiful conversation it was to hear them talking about, oh, it seems like we need to be stepping up here. We need to be stepping up. That's stage 1, when a small group of people are starting to think about the needs of the community and how it is they can help to cover those needs. Stage 2, we said yesterday, it's when that group starts realizing, wait a minute, we have a minister that we kind of like, and we'd like that minister to dedicate time to us. What if we were to provide him or her a stipend, a way to be able to show that there's some relationship between us? In return for you celebrating Mass and or sacraments for us, we'd like to offer you something in return. Then suddenly resources, as the community has resources that it's beginning to share, and it's creating a real working relationship. If I could point to our Hudson Bend community again, it was this beautiful thing where they realized after confirmations, when our Archbishop came to Hudson Bend in May, suddenly with all the people who came for confirmations and offered donations as a part of that event, suddenly that community had resources, and it was thinking, okay, what do we start doing with these resources? Stage 3. By stage 3, we're rocking and rolling because we have a consistent community, if we've grown our communities to that point. And what that means then is it's really important for us to make sure that the resources that are shared, there's a way of accountability, that we have some accountability for them. Here in the parish, I talk often about internal controls, simply meaning, for instance, that the money doesn't go home under someone's bed where it can get lost. How do we put in place the necessary controls so that no one can ever be accused of doing something that he or she didn't do? Oh, Father Jayme's taking out of the collection. Oh, no, I got news for you. We have the internal controls in place here that Father Jayme doesn't even have to worry about those sorts of things. Follow me? It's a way of protecting ourselves. It's a way of protecting ourselves and protecting every person. I tell our stewardship committee all the time, how do we protect one another? When I walk into the office and see a collection basket with cash sitting there with in the presence of only one person or something, wait a minute. I mean, we trust you, we love you, and we trust you, but at the same time, anyone could accuse someone of doing something they never did. Let's just never put ourselves in those sorts of places. Let's put the internal controls in place to prevent that. That's stage 3. And also, because of the amount of resources, it's probably best for us to involve other people in how we're going to use those resources. As I said early on, this is not my money or Father Roy's money. Sorry, Father Roy. These are our resources as a parish community. So when we have finance council meetings and share how much is in our savings account and our checking account, etc., that's because it's all of our resources. How do we want to use these resources? Stage 4. Stage 4, we talked about, as we grow our communities large enough, we start putting in place various databases and systems, which is essentially what the Roman Catholic Church has. Roman Catholic churches have their staff on Monday morning inputting, what are all the gifts that came in through envelopes. Same here at Holy Family. Our office administrator on Monday morning is putting into the database, tracking all the gifts so that we have an accounting of all those gifts that have come in. So that at the end of the year we can generate those end of year statements. Stage 5 is one of responsibility. Stage 5 is when you have considerable resources and you realize, when Archbishop Bill says, talk about reputation, when you have this many resources, it is our responsibility to protect and to steward those resources. To make sure that no one, would that not be a scandal if someone were to abscond with considerable resources that a community like ours has? How do make sure that these things are prevented. Examples at Holy Family. So we know that people come to Holy Family and love this Holy Family experience, and people bring with them various resources. Some of the ways that we, throughout these 5 years of growth, have brought resources to this parish have been, one, through our weekly Sunday Masses. When I visited Rabboni community in Louisville, they have a very interesting model. They don't pass the basket for a collection. They say there's a basket in the entrance. If you'd like to leave it, if you'd like to make a donation, the basket's in the back. I'm going to be honest, I was formed as a Roman Catholic priest for way too long. The basket's passed around simply so that it makes it convenient for those who want to generously share with themselves. You don't have to walk to the back of the church. We'll make it convenient for you. Sunday Masses, special appeals. We like to do things like, if you've ever seen one of our ads on Facebook, which I don't anticipate you did because we targeted to within 50 miles of Austin, but we have things like, we want to put an ad in the newspaper. That's going to be $42 a week. How are we going to cover that cost over a number of weeks? Instead of taking it out of the collection, out of our resources, we go back to the people and say, this is our dream. We'd like to do this. We'd like to grow our Facebook presence. We want to be the third largest Catholic church in Austin in terms of Facebook presence. Will you help us to do that? And people respond. We want to have a newspaper ad. Will you help with that? People respond. We'd like 4 gold communion cups, which is what we're going to be blessing on Sunday. Are there persons out there, and we just find that people, they start to generously respond to these sorts of asks. The welcome mats that you see around here, they come from people. The crazy Father Jayme air dancer outside, it was simply us coming up with ideas and saying, is there anyone who'd like to provide an air dancer for us to put outside the church? Father, I'll do it. And it's a beautiful thing to see how it is that people step up. Maybe not with that much enthusiasm, but people rally around this shared vision that we all have. Our parish gift shop, Deacon Angelita, early on in our existence, was thinking very hard on, how do we bring together resources. We tried a flea market for a time. The gift shop, it just seems to make sense. We're Catholics. Many Catholics like certain Catholic things like rosaries. If they're looking for rosaries, why not find a way for us to be able to provide those rosaries here? You heard of that connection that I have in Mexico, where Mexico, things are less expensive in Mexico, and Dr. Trevino is giving us a deep discount. Why not bring those things with us to Austin and offer them to the people of God? Sacraments. Our community in Hudson Bend found this out in a magnificent way. When you start offering sacraments, Catholic churches, they don't charge people. I know better than to say that, but they do have certain requirements for sacraments with respect to classes, with respect to the donations. People find that they can come to Holy Family without all the classes, and we can suggest certain donations to them, and we find that people respond really generously because they've been denied the sacraments by other churches, and they are grateful. The sacraments, which I mentioned Hudson Bend, because that was really the influx for that community, was when they found out, let's spread the word about confirmations. They saw, those persons coming to them with, offering various donations for the confirmations for the Archbishop's visit there in May, and suddenly, boom, that community had resources like it had never seen before. Fundraisers, we have our annual Jamaica. If you've seen that word, it looks like Jamaica. It's a Tex-Mex word for a church festival, for a bazaar. So we have our annual Jamaica, which this year brought in $22,000 of income. So, when you take out the expenses, it's not quite $22,000, but it's a considerable shot in the arm for a ministry like ours. And then our pledge drive, we have an annual pledge drive simply because it's a way to be able to inspire people's generosity and to invite them to buy into the long-term vision of our parish. We want a new church. We want it so badly that we can almost taste it. Okay, maybe not a good choice of words, but we want that church so badly, right? That and there are other persons who share that dream. So we have this annual pledge drive where, typically for the 12 or 13 weeks leading up to our anniversary, those who make a pledge can pay off their pledge, can fulfill their pledge during those weeks, and it's a beautiful thing. They're making pledges of sizes that are meaningful to them, and it's us finding ways to be able to thank them for that. Finally, the create WinWin Scenarios. This really has been weighing on my mind since our Jamaica, because for our Jamaica, you saw a copy of our ad book. The ad book was a real win-win situation because there are businesses who want to spread the word of their business. So if they can do that while supporting a church, that's a win. They're not just paying it to some newspaper corporation. They're actually supporting a church while getting the word out about their business. So I just thought it was a win for our community, having that sort of income, a win for them being able to spread word of it, but also it introduced us to more relationships. Went into one law office and he said, "How many followers do you have on Facebook?" I said, "About 3,000. He said, "What if I were to pay you $300 a week for you simply to resend every time I have a radio show on immigration? What if you were just to every time you see that posted, you share that out and I pay $300 to your church?" Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, right? We haven't started that relationship yet. We want to make sure that everything is on the up. But at the same time, it creates a win-win situation for our parish community and for his law firm that works with the immigration community. So I start drawing all this to a close, simply saying there's a sadness, there's a heaviness that weighs in my heart in the independent Catholic movement, because there are so many bishops out there. When I see these directories of 800 bishops, I think to myself, how much resources do we have? How much resources have we gathered together as an independent Catholic movement? And I think the answer is sadly not a lot, because in many places, as our Archbishop said, the organizations are as small as a single bishop. That's not a lot of resources. So the question becomes, if it's the case that the American Catholic Church in the United States will never enjoy the influence and the power in this world that it could, that it had other structures that allowed it to organize people and resource in different ways, how can we make sure that doesn't keep us at a local level? We just really thank the Archbishop. When the Archbishop says there's no cathedraticum, no tax. In the Roman Catholic Church, we were accustomed. Father Roy was on our finance council at Cristo Rey for many years. Deacon Angelita as well. To write that check off the top for 10% to the Roman Catholic Diocese of Austin. That was, it supported that structure and allows them to amass power and influence in a certain incredible way. We don't have that. For us, at the local level, it gives us a great amount of opportunity as priests and deacons. As a young friar, our vocations director used to use this phrase, if not us, who? If not here, where? If not now, when? If not for the kingdom, why? And isn't that what this is all about? The kingdom of God, ultimately. Here at Holy Family, we're really into spreading God's kingdom. And we just found that I hate to differ with St. Francis, who thought that money was so evil according to the stories that come down to us. Instead of seeing money as an evil, it's really allowed us to do some incredible things here at Holy Family, and how we would love to help others to enjoy those blessings as well. Our clergy council meetings this last year have really pointed us in the direction of how do we collaborate with and or at least dialogue with others who are in similar situations to us, other communities that have considerable resources, so that we can talk with them about the challenges of helping others to grow to this point and to sustain what we have. Let's not go good to great to gone. Let's go good to great to even greater, for the greater glory of God.
Amen.